Hey guys, we're going to receive more news from Dallas, but first, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave your like. Cowboys fans are in their feelings about Brian Schottenheimer interview. The Dallas Cowboys were late to the head coaching search party this offseason. Jerry Jones and company waited until the playoffs were well underway to make the decision to move on from Mike McCarthy, and now the Cowboys are searching for the next person to lead their team. On Tuesday, the Cowboys locked in an interview with a candidate that almost nobody expected. Current Cowboys offensive coordinator, Brian Schottenheimer, completed an interview with the team for its open head coaching position. After the Cowboys announced the move on social media, fans of the team were in shock and immediately expressed their displeasure with the idea. If you really hire a guy who isn't a good offensive coordinator to be head coach? I'm done, one fan wrote on X, formerly Twitter. Huge L. If we hire Schott over some of the other candidates for HC, then I'll be very inclined to not watch a single Cowboys game next season, another fan wrote. Schottenheimer has been the offensive coordinator with the Cowboys for 2 seasons since Kellen Moore left the same position, and now he's looking for a promotion. He has no head coach experience at the NFL level but has a long history as an assistant, including stints with the old St. Louis Rams, the New York Jets, and the Seattle Seahawks as the offensive coordinator. It remains to be seen whether Schottenheimer would want to call plays if he is the next head coach or whether he would hire an offensive coordinator to handle those duties, but there's no question that this Cowboys offense needs to get better next season if they want to get back to the playoffs. Schottenheimer joins a short list of candidates that have interviewed with the Cowboys. Seattle Seahawks assistant head coach Leslie Frazier, former New York Jets head coach Robert Saleh and more, who is now the offensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles, have all completed interviews in recent days. Based on their reactions, the Cowboys fans are hoping that they go in a different direction than Schottenheimer for the team's next head coach. However, he got his chance to impress Jones and the rest of the front office, and now it's on the team to make the difficult decision. Troy Finnegan is an associate editor at Clutch Points. He graduated from the University of Colorado Boulder in 2023 with a degree in journalism and minors in communications and sports media, as well as a critical sports studies certificate. He has had a passion for sports his entire life, and enjoys covering and writing about all sports. Why Kellen Moore would be the wrong head coach for the Cowboys? The Dallas Cowboys conducted a virtual interview with Kellen Moore for their head coaching vacancy last Friday, but the Eagles' win on Sunday means that Jerry Jones will have to wait a little longer if he wants to hire his former offensive coordinator. Our own Dan Rogers previously outlined why Moore should be the pick for the job, but it's safe to say that the fanbase is split on the idea. As a counter-argument, here are 3 reasons why Moore is the wrong choice to lead the Cowboys in 2025. Weaknesses as a play caller still remain. The Eagles' playoff game on Sunday was a perfect example of why the Cowboys shouldn't hire Moore, and it's not because he's working for the enemy, although it does still feel wrong seeing him in that green. Simply put, Moore's weaknesses as a play caller from his Dallas days still remain. Moore has become a more run-heavy play caller in Philadelphia, though that's mostly out of deference to head coach Nick Sirianni, more on that in a moment. In the game against the Rams, Moore's offense morphed into the worst version of Moore's worst tendencies. The pass game became static and Moore was completely at the mercy of his run game, powered by Saquon Barkley, to move the ball. Barkley finished with 77 more rushing yards than Jalen Hurts had passing yards, and the Eagles finished the game with a stark difference in pass and run efficiency. Their 0.30 EPA/run was one of their best marks all year, while their -0.12 EPA/dropback was utterly abysmal. 2 moments in the game reminded everyone about Moore's lack of situational awareness as a play caller. The Eagles had been pinned back to their own 8 and Hurts, who had been in the medical tent with a knee injury after the previous drive, came out for this series. Moore called a run play on first down, but went with a deep drop pass play on second down. His offensive line, which had already given up 5 sacks on the day, gave up another and Hurts was sacked in the end zone for a safety. Much later in the game, the Eagles had the ball up 6 with 2:48 left. They needed to grind out the clock as much as possible, and everyone expected them to lean on Barkley once again. After a first down run, though, Hurts rolled out on a play-action bootleg that freed nobody up. Hurts was sacked, and the Rams used their second timeout. It was a risky call, first and foremost, but it was poor situational awareness even with the Rams being forced to use their timeout because it made a first down, something the Eagles needed on that drive to ensure the win, virtually impossible after the sack. As it turned out, the Rams got the ball back and came dangerously close to winning the game, bailed out by a timely sack. Nobody doubts Moore's brilliance, and when his scheme is clicking, it's a beautiful thing to watch. But his Cowboys' offenses fell into a rut all too often, and this most recent game served as a warning that he still hasn't figured out how to overcome it. Differential nature a bad fit with Jerry Jones. At the end of the day, the biggest factor in a new head coach will come down to their relationship with Jerry Jones, which is why Moore is considered the favorite by some. But what the Cowboys want and what they need in a head coach are two different things. The Cowboys need a coach who is willing to challenge Jones on certain issues, but do so in a way that isn't so confrontational that it turns Jones off entirely. McCarthy started to figure this out too late, getting his analytics department after 3 years and getting the okay to phase Ezekiel Elliott out of the offense halfway through this past season. Moore, on the other hand, has proven to be largely deferential as a coach. This can be seen most directly in how he has used pre-snap motion throughout his career. When Moore first took over the Cowboys' offense, he talked a lot about the advantages of using motion before the snap, and the Cowboys came out firing that year. Over the first 3 games of 2019, Dallas ran motion on 69.2% of their plays. They also jumped out to a 3-0 start. However, there were comments from both Jason Garrett and Jerry Jones regarding the offense after that, mostly concerning how stable such an approach was. Suddenly, the offense changed, and they used motion on just 60.4% of their plays for the rest of the year, a staggering decline. Each of the next 3 years with Moore running the offense, Dallas declined more and more each year in motion rate, never rising above 55.8% for the year. When Moore departed for the Chargers, where he was the highest-ranking offensive coach on the staff, motion usage shot up to 69.8%, almost exactly where it had been in Moore's first 3 games as a play caller. This past year, Moore arrived in Philadelphia and started calling the offense under Eagles head coach Nick Sirianni. Throughout Sirianni's 3 seasons leading the Eagles, which saw 3 different play callers prior to Moore, the offense had rarely used motion compared to the rest of the league. That trend continued despite Moore's clear preference for it, as Philadelphia's 57.5% motion rate ranked 21st in the league, the lowest that one of Moore's offenses has ever finished. This is only the most easily identifiable example, but Moore has a history of being overly deferential to others when it comes to his scheme and core philosophies. That's not a trait that will help the Cowboys succeed given the current ownership structure. A return to the Jason Garrett/Scott Linehan era. It's easy to draw parallels between Moore and Garrett, and there's a reason for that. Garrett remains a huge influence on Moore, as does Moore's predecessor, Scott Linehan. The offensive coordinator that Moore replaced goes back a long way with the coaching candidate. When Moore was growing up in Prosser, Washington, Linehan was the offensive coordinator for the University of Washington. Via the recruiting circuit, Linehan got to know Moore's father, a longtime high school head coach in Prosser. Linehan was off to the NFL by the time Moore was playing high school football, but the families remained close. It played a part in Moore signing with the Lions as an undrafted free agent back in 2012, joining up with Linehan, then the Detroit offensive coordinator. Moore, of course, followed Linehan to Dallas and then jump-started his career. Moore has remained close with Linehan even after replacing him, and Linehan, who spent this past season as an offensive analyst for the University of Montana, served in the same role the last 3 seasons at Missouri, where Moore's brother Kirby is the offensive coordinator. The lasting influence of both Garrett and Linehan is present even in the staff Moore has kept around him. Doug Nussmeier, a longtime college coordinator who played quarterback for Linehan at Washington, has been Moore's quarterbacks coach every single year he's been a coordinator. On top of that, Kyle Valero reunited with Moore in Philadelphia this year after having assisted with receivers for the bulk of Garrett's time as head coach. Valero remained in Dallas up until Moore's departure. Hiring Moore would certainly draw praise from some around the league, as his star has been rising for some time, and he's likely to do okay for himself in Dallas too. But Moore's head coaching career is likely to unfold in much the same way that the Garrett era did, which is to say he won't live up to the standard that so many fans have for this team. Nick Saban says he wants to see Deion Sanders land Dallas Cowboys' HC job. Nick Saban wants to see Deion Sanders land arguably the most prominent head coaching job in all of football. Saban recently visited the Pivot podcast. On the subject of coaching in the NFL, the Dallas Cowboys opening came up. Saban voiced his approval for the former Cowboy superstar to return to Dallas as head coach. Sanders spoke to Cowboys owner Jerry Jones last week, calling the talks intriguing. Ed Werder, a longtime Cowboys insider, later shared that sources indicated Sanders would almost certainly accept an offer to be the head coach in Dallas. Jones and company, however, may be focused on other candidates. On Sunday, NFL Network insider Ian Rappaport poured cold water on Sanders' chatter. And then there's the Dallas Cowboys, Rappaport said Sunday. Nothing scheduled yet with Coach Prime. I would be surprised, probably very surprised, if something did in fact get scheduled. If Sanders were to land the Dallas head coaching job, it would be his first time coaching in the NFL. Sanders has coached at the college level for the past 5 seasons at Jackson State, 2020-22, and Colorado, 2023-present. And you fan? What do you think of the situation of Deion Sanders? Leave your opinion in the comments.